You're going to hate what I'm about to tell you. Not because it's wrong, because it's true. And the truth you've been running from your entire adult life is this: you're not paralyzed by circumstances. You're not stuck because of bad luck, bad timing, or bad opportunities. You're paralyzed because you're a coward. And you've spent years, maybe decades, getting exceptionally good at lying to yourself about it. Right now, you're telling yourself this doesn't apply to you, that your situation is different, that you have legitimate reasons to wait, and that's exactly what makes you the perfect case study for what we're about to explore. Let me guess your script. You tell yourself, it's not the right time yet. I need to save more money first. I need to finish this project. I need to wait until the kids are older. I need to get through this busy season at work. I need more clarity. I need a sign. You repeat these phrases like mantras, like prayers, like they're evidence of your wisdom and maturity. But Soren Kierkegaard, who understood human self-deception better than almost anyone who ever lived, saw through this charade over 170 years ago. And what he discovered will either wake you up or confirm that you're already too far gone. Here's what's really happening. You're not waiting for the right moment. You're waiting for guarantees, for certainty, for a version of reality where choices come with warranties and return policies, where you can act without consequences, choose without sacrifice, live without bleeding. You want the universe to send you an ironclad promise that says, go ahead, you won't fail, you won't get hurt, you won't look stupid, you won't regret this. It's safe now, but that promise will never come. And while you're waiting for it, you're dying, not metaphorically, actually dying, one wasted day at a time. Kierkegaard understood something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The greatest prison ever constructed has no bars, no walls, no guards. It has something far more sophisticated. It has justifications. Beautiful, logical, airtight justifications that sound so reasonable, so mature, so prudent, that you don't even realize you're trapped. You think you're making smart decisions. You think you're being strategic. You think you're waiting for alignment. But what you're really doing is outsourcing your life to a cosmic lottery that will never pay out. You're waiting for permission from a universe that doesn't give a fuck about you. That knot in your stomach, that constant low-grade anxiety that never quite leaves, that's not a disorder. That's not a chemical imbalance. That's existential anguish. That's your soul screaming that you're free, that you're alive, that the clock is ticking and you're standing completely still. Kierkegaard called this anguish the dizziness of freedom. It appears precisely when you become conscious that you can act, that you can change, that you can leap into the unknown. And that realization is so absolutely terrifying that most people spend their entire existence running from it. Because here's what no one wants to tell you. Freedom isn't the lightness you see in commercials and Instagram captions. It's not joy. It's not liberation. Freedom is a brutal, merciless burden. It means every path you don't choose dies forever. Every version of yourself you could have been gets buried. Every moment you waste is gone, and it's never, ever coming back. And that's why you've turned waiting into an art form, a sophisticated ritual that protects you from the pain of actually living. You think you're being rational, you think you're being mature, but Kierkegaard would call you exactly what you are, a coward wrapped in philosopher's clothing. This isn't casual procrastination. This is what he called sophisticated despair, the refusal to live disguised as planning, the denial of existence wrapped in logic, the death of your soul while your body keeps going through the motions. And here's what you need to understand before we go any deeper. No one is coming to save you. There is no perfect moment. There is no cosmic sign. There is no instruction manual that will make this easier. Life demands that you act with your heart racing, your hands shaking, your mind screaming at you to stop. That's the leap of faith, not religious, Existential, the act of choosing without guarantees, of walking when you can't see the ground, of living even when it terrifies you. And if you don't take that leap, if you keep hiding in this comfortable purgatory of endless planning and eternal preparation, then you're already dead. You just haven't fallen yet. This video found you for a reason, not fate, not coincidence, but because some part of you, the part you've been suffocating with excuses, knows it's time. The restlessness that brought you here is the only sign that matters. Everything else is noise. Now you have two choices: keep lying to yourself or finally wake up. Let's begin. You think you're free because you have options, because you can imagine 10 different careers, 5 different cities, 3 different versions of yourself. You scroll through your life like it's a Netflix menu, hovering over possibilities but never pressing play, and you feel powerful doing this. You feel like you're moving forward. But here's the disturbing truth Kierkegaard reveals. This apparent freedom is the very cage that's keeping you imprisoned. Let me paint you a picture. Maybe you're 32 years old, sitting in your apartment that's good enough for now. You've been planning to start that business for 6 years. You have 3 notebooks filled with ideas, a folder on your desktop labeled Future Projects, and a recurring reminder on your phone that says time to act. But every Sunday night, you tell yourself the same story. Not yet. I need to research more. I need to save another $5,000. I need to wait until Q2 when work calms down. Meanwhile, your ex-college roommate, less talented, less prepared, less ready than you, just launched their 3rd failed startup. And they're happier than you've been in years. Why? Because at least they're failing forward. At least they're alive. Or maybe you're 40 and you've been almost ready to leave that toxic relationship for 3 years. You have the conversations mapped out in your head. You know exactly what you'd say. You've rehearsed it in the shower 100 times. You've even looked at apartments. But every time you get close to acting, you find a reason to wait. After the holidays, after their work situation stabilizes, after we try one more round of therapy, and years pass, and you become a ghost in your own life. This is what Kierkegaard called the aesthetic mode of existence, the mode of the perpetual dreamer, the chronic planner, the visionary who never commits. You live entirely in your head, in the realm of infinite possibility, where every version of your life exists simultaneously, and it feels like motion. It feels like progress. But outside your skull, nothing is happening. Your actual life, the one you're supposedly living, remains frozen, suspended in what looks like thoughtful consideration but is really just elaborate mental masturbation. Here's what's actually destroying you. You prefer the fantasy to the reality, the dream of choice to the pain of action, because acting means cutting. It means saying no to thousands of other paths. It means watching potential versions of yourself die one by one as you commit to a single direction. And that symbolic death of your other possible selves, that's what's tearing you apart in silence. You've been seduced by the modern religion of infinite options, in a culture that worships choice, that tells you you can be anything. The act of choosing one thing feels like failure, like losing, like death. So you keep every door open. You stand in the hallway of your life, going nowhere, convinced that keeping your options open is the same as living. But Kierkegaard was brutally direct about this. A life of infinite potential without concrete action is as wasted as a life spent in prison. Actually, it's worse, because at least the prisoner knows they're trapped. You keep your existence in draft mode, terrified to hit publish. You curate beautiful plans. You collect inspiring quotes. You post about your journey. But you never cross the threshold into the messy, imperfect, terrifying realm of reality. This paralysis isn't laziness. It's not even fear in the conventional sense. It's existential anguish manifesting as analysis paralysis. It's the deep, bone-level discomfort of knowing you're free to choose, paired with the crushing awareness that with freedom comes inescapable responsibility. Because once you choose, once you commit, once you step into reality, you lose all your excuses. Guilt, failure, regret, disappointment, all of it becomes yours and yours alone. No one else to blame, no fate to curse, just you and the consequences of your choices. And you hide this terror so well. You tell others you're thinking, planning, being strategic. You use words like alignment and readiness and clarity. You post quotes about divine timing and trusting the process. But late at night, when you're alone with yourself and the mask comes off, you know the truth. You're hiding. You're terrified. Because choosing means the dream dies and reality begins. Real, flawed, risky, imperfect, painful reality. Here's where it gets worse. The longer you delay, the more toxic the dream becomes. What once inspired you now haunts you. You watch time slip away. You watch other people, less talented, less prepared, less deserving than you, actually doing things. Trying, failing, learning, living. And you remain stuck, waiting, planning, preparing for a perfect moment that doesn't exist. Kierkegaard was merciless about this. He said those who live eternally in the realm of possibility aren't dreamers. They're cowards wrapped in poetry. They're corpses pretending to be alive. And the price of this cowardice is the silent disintegration of your soul. The restlessness grows. The frustration calcifies into your personality. The regret becomes your shadow. That constant tension you feel, that subtle anxiety that never quite leaves, that's not anxiety. That's unlived life. Accumulated potential, trapped energy rotting inside you, and it will devour you from the inside out until you do something with it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're different. Maybe your waiting is wisdom. Maybe caution is the smart play. Maybe the people who leap are just reckless idiots who got lucky. Let's explore that possibility. Because if you're going to keep waiting, you should at least understand what you're choosing. And to understand that, we need to face the unbearable weight of freedom itself. If this is cutting deeper than you expected, if part of you wants to close this video right now and go back to scrolling, that's the moment. That discomfort is the entire point. And if you hit subscribe, you're not supporting me. You're making a statement to yourself. You're saying, I'm done with comfortable lies. Most of you won't. And that tells you everything you need to know about which side of the line you're standing on. Let me ask you something. What are you actually afraid of? Most people will say failure, looking stupid, wasting time or money, being judged, and those fears are real. But Kierkegaard reveals something far more disturbing underneath them. What truly terrifies you isn't failure, it's freedom itself. Freedom, despite what every shallow motivational speaker tries to sell you, is not lightness, it's not joy, it's not the absence of constraints. Freedom is anguish, pure, uncut, existential anguish that hits you the moment you realize you are completely, utterly, terrifyingly responsible for your own life. Let me show you what I mean. You're sitting at your desk right now. Maybe you hate your job. Maybe you're bored, unfulfilled, slowly dying inside. And you know you could leave. You could quit tomorrow. You're free to do that. But the moment you become conscious of that freedom, something else appears. A crushing weight. Because with that freedom comes a question you can't escape. If I can leave, and I'm not leaving, then whose fault is it that I'm miserable? Suddenly, it's not your boss's fault, not the economy's fault, not your parents' fault for not supporting your dreams. It's yours. The prison door was never locked. You're just too terrified to walk through it. That's what Kierkegaard meant when he said, anguish is the dizziness of freedom. It emerges when you become fully conscious that you can choose, that you must choose, and that every choice you make carries the unbearable weight of destroying all the others. You can take any path, but the instant you step forward, every other path dies. Every other version of you gets buried in the graveyard of what could have been. This symbolic death of your potential selves is what's tearing you apart in silence. It's what keeps you frozen even when every external circumstance says you're free to move. Think about it. Right now, there's a version of you that could have been an artist, another version that could have lived in another country, another that could have married someone else, another that could have taken that risk 5 years ago. Those versions aren't hypothetical. They're real possibilities that you killed by choosing what you chose, by choosing to stay safe, by choosing to wait. And the horror of it is this: you're killing more versions of yourself every single day you remain paralyzed. The paradox is vicious. You want to be free, but you don't want the crushing weight that comes with freedom. You want infinite options, but not the responsibility of choosing one. You want to act, but not carry the consequences. So, anguish appears. This shapeless, sourceless feeling. This tightness in your chest that you can't quite explain. This and a restlessness you try to medicate with distractions, substances, relationships, work, porn, social media, anything to make it stop. But it doesn't stop, because it's not a malfunction. It's consciousness. It's the price of being awake. It's your soul telling you that you're alive and free and running out of time. Here's something most people never understand. The anguish comes from within, not from outside. Not from the world, not from other people, not from circumstances. It comes from your own internal freedom confronting you with an unavoidable fact. There is no one else who can decide for you. Not God, not fate, not your parents, your partner, your therapist, or society. It's you. It's always been you. It will always be you. And this radical solitude of decision is so terrifying that most people spend their entire lives trying to escape it. You try to make other people decide for you. You ask for advice, hoping someone will just tell you what to do. You create situations where circumstances force your hand so you don't have to take responsibility. You wait for signs from the universe because you're too terrified to be the one who chooses. But the universe doesn't send signs. The universe doesn't care. You're alone with your freedom, and that freedom is crushing you. Kierkegaard saw anguish as a threshold, a breaking point between two modes of existence. On one side, inauthentic existence, where you live according to others' expectations, where you follow scripts written by family, culture, fear, where you're a puppet convinced you're pulling your own strings. On the other side, authentic existence, where you act from your own core, where you choose without guarantees, where you create yourself through your decisions, where you're finally, terrifyingly alive. And here's what you need to burn into your brain. Anguish is not meant to be avoided. It's meant to be traversed. It's not the enemy. It's the birth canal of authentic freedom. Without anguish, you remain a shadow, a reflection, someone who exists but doesn't live. Someone who reacts but never acts, a sophisticated machine running someone else's programming. Traversing anguish requires real courage, not the fake Hollywood courage where you're fearless and confident. That's not courage, that's stupidity. Real courage is acting while terrified, taking the first step with your knees shaking, recognizing that the discomfort churning in your stomach isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's proof you're finally stepping out of the dead zone of passivity. Let me tell you something Kierkegaard understood that most people never grasp. The people who seem the most free, the most alive, the most authentic, they're not less afraid than you. They just refuse to let fear make their decisions for them. They feel the anguish, they feel the weight, they feel the terror of choosing, but they act anyway. And that's the difference. That's the entire fucking difference. So now you have a choice. Will you keep trying to anesthetize your freedom with Netflix, alcohol, endless scrolling, compulsive planning, and sophisticated rationalizations? Or will you finally accept the burden that comes with being conscious and alive? Because in the next section, we're going to tear apart the specific lie that's been sustaining your paralysis. The lie you tell yourself every single day, the lie that's killing you slowly from the inside, the lie that you're waiting for the right time. Let's get specific about your bullshit. You tell yourself, I'm just being responsible, I'm being smart, I'm being strategic. But let's examine what you're actually doing. You're 28 and you've been talking about writing that book for 4 years. You have 47 unfinished drafts. You've read 15 books about writing. You follow 30 authors on social media. You have a Google Doc titled Publishing Strategy. But you haven't written a single complete chapter. Why? I need to find my voice first. I need to read more. I need to understand the market better. I need to wait until I have something worth saying. Or you're 35 and you've been in the same dead-end relationship for 7 years. You know it's over. You've known for 3 years. You've had the breakup conversation in your head 1,000 times, but you're still there. Why? I need to wait until they're in a better place emotionally. I need to wait until after their work deadline. I need to save more money first. I need to make sure I won't regret it. Or you're 42 and you hate your career. You've hated it for a decade. You daydream about doing something else every single day. You have a plan. You know what you'd rather do, but you're still showing up to the same job you despise. Why? I need to wait until I have 6 months of savings. I need to wait until the economy is better. I need to wait until I'm absolutely certain it will work out. Do you see the pattern? You're not waiting for time. You're not waiting for resources. You're not waiting for clarity. You're waiting for guarantees. You want absolute assurance that it will work out, that it won't hurt, that you won't fail, that you won't regret it, that you won't be judged, rejected, mocked, or humiliated. You want a divine stamp of approval that says, "Go ahead. It's safe now. You won't suffer." But Kierkegaard tears that mask off with surgical precision. He understood that this waiting is not passivity. It's an active decision not to decide. And that's infinitely more destructive because it seems so reasonable. You convince yourself you're just being responsible, just being careful, just being mature. But what you're really doing is fleeing from the deepest responsibility of all, the responsibility to choose your life without safety nets. Here's the truth that will either free you or destroy you. Life will never offer you certainty. You will never have all the information. You will never know with absolute confidence whether you're making the right choice. Because there is no objectively right choice. There's only the choice you make and what you do with the consequences that follow, glorious or devastating or somewhere in between. Let me make this visceral for you. That book you're going to write, it might suck. Your first published work might get 1-star reviews. People might mock it. You might look back in 5 years and cringe at how bad it was. And that's still better than never writing it. That relationship you're going to end, it's going to hurt like hell. You're going to cry. You're going to doubt yourself. You might have moments where you think you made a mistake, and you still need to end it. That career change you're going to make, you might fail. You might run out of money. You might have to move back in with your parents at 43. People might judge you, and it's still better than dying slowly in a job you hate. Because here's what you don't understand. The desire for guarantees is a childish desire for someone else to make the decision for you. It's wanting to live without carrying the weight of outcomes. But adult reality, the reality of authentic existence, is brutal and uncompromising. Every real decision is a leap into darkness. No matter how much you research, plan, analyze, and organize, in the end, there will always be uncertainty. There will always be risk. There will always be the possibility of failure, pain, regret, and that's exactly what makes life real. That's what gives meaning to action. If there were guarantees, there would be no courage required. There would be no freedom. There would be no growth. You'd just be following a script, executing a program, living a predetermined simulation. Here's the cruelest part. The more you wait for guarantees, the further you drift from actual life. Because living requires exposure. It requires vulnerability. It requires trying, failing, adapting, suffering, learning, bleeding. Waiting for a cosmic permission slip is really just asking the universe to spare you from the burden of being human. Kierkegaard was unforgiving about this. He said this kind of waiting is a refusal to exist. It's suspended animation, a frozen, anesthetized pseudo-life where nothing real can touch you because you've locked yourself in a cage made of not yet. What you call patience might just be cowardice. What you call preparation might just be escape. What you call caution might just be the slow death of your potential. You want a path where there's no loss, no sacrifice, no death of other possibilities. But that path doesn't exist anywhere in reality. It only exists in your fantasies. And listen, I know this hurts. I know part of you wants to close this video right now. I know every instinct you have is screaming at you to defend yourself, to explain why your situation is different, why your reasons are legitimate. That's normal. That's human. And that's exactly why most people die without ever living. So let me ask you directly, and I want you to actually answer this in your head right now. What hurts more? The fear of trying and possibly failing, or the certainty of reaching the end of your life and realizing you never really tried at all? Because in the next section, we're going to explore the only authentic response to this reality. What Kierkegaard called the leap of faith. And I need to warn you, this leap has nothing to do with religion or blind belief. It's something far more demanding, far more terrifying, far more human. It's the act of choosing to live without guarantees, relying only on your own courage and responsibility. It's the moment where you either become real or you accept that you never will be. If you've made it this far, you're already standing at the edge of the abyss. The only question that matters now is, will you jump? The leap of faith is one of the most profoundly misunderstood concepts in existential philosophy. When people hear that phrase, they immediately think of religion. They think Kierkegaard is talking about blind belief in God, about abandoning reason for dogma, about irrational faith. But that's not what he meant at all. The leap Kierkegaard is describing is existential, not theological. It's infinitely more challenging than religious faith because there's no God to catch you. It's the act of choosing your own life even when you can't see what's coming. It's jumping when there's no visible ground below you, no safety net, no insurance policy, no guarantee of a soft landing. It's trusting not in some external deity, but in yourself. In your own capacity to handle what comes, in your own responsibility, in your own courage to exist fully. Let me be clear. Kierkegaard understood that modern humans are experts at running from silence, running from discomfort, running from responsibility, running above all from their own freedom. But there comes a moment, if you're lucky, if you're paying attention, when the pain of continuing to run becomes greater than the fear of stopping and facing what's real. That's where the leap is born. Not as an impulsive reaction, not as reckless stupidity, but as an act of brutal, clear-eyed lucidity. Let me tell you what the leap actually looks like in real life, because it's not what you think. It's 3 a.m. and you're lying awake for the 300th night in a row, that familiar knot in your stomach, that voice in your head telling you that you're wasting your life. And instead of rolling over and going back to sleep like you always do, you sit up, you grab your phone, and you type out the email, the one you've been rehearsing for 2 years, the resignation letter, the breakup text, the message to the investor, whatever it is, and your hands are shaking, your heart is racing. Every cell in your body is screaming at you to stop, to delete it, to go back to sleep. But you press send. That's the leap. Or it's finally booking the plane ticket to the place you've been talking about moving to for 5 years. Or it's scheduling the appointment with the divorce lawyer. Or it's publishing the thing you've been working on in secret. Or it's telling someone the truth you've been hiding. The leap of faith is the decision to live authentically even when you know you might fail spectacularly. It's the abandonment of the search for absolute certainties and the beginning of the real work of creating your own existence. It's saying, I don't know what will happen. I can't see the whole path. But I'm going to step forward anyway because staying here is killing me. This leap doesn't happen with dramatic music and perfect lighting. There's no audience, no applause, no validation. It's silent. It's solitary. It usually happens in the dark hours when you're alone with the void inside yourself. When you finally realize, if I don't act now, I'll just keep spinning in the same cycle of anguish, dissatisfaction, and suffocating paralysis until I die. Kierkegaard understood that the people who leap aren't the ones who feel less fear. They're the ones who accept fear as an inseparable part of being alive. They're the ones who understand that living is inherently risky and that risk will never be eliminated. They're the ones who finally grasp that the only real certainty is this: if I do nothing, nothing will change. If I stay frozen, I'll die frozen. The leap is the mature adult response to existential anguish. It's the moment when you stop asking for permission and start taking ownership. When you say, I choose this. I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it's right, but I choose it anyway, and I'll carry the consequences. And let's be completely honest. People who leap also stumble. They also fail. They also cry, bleed, and question everything. The leap doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees something far more valuable: the peace of knowing you tried, the dignity of knowing you didn't hide from your own life, the satisfaction of knowing you didn't spend your existence as a cautious spectator in the stands, but as an imperfect, flawed, beautiful protagonist in the arena. Here's what Kierkegaard knew that most people never learn. There's a specific kind of peace that comes from action, even failed action, that you can never get from endless preparation. The person who tries and fails can look themselves in the mirror. The person who never tries becomes a ghost haunting their own life. The leap of faith is the dividing line between a life that's actually lived and a life that's merely endured, between existing and living, between going through the motions and creating your own meaning. If you feel like you're at the breaking point right now, if something inside you is demanding change, if this restlessness has been growing louder every day, that's not random, that's not anxiety, that's not a flaw. That inner calling, that pressure building in your chest, is the beginning of your leap. It's your soul getting ready to jump. And here's what you need to understand. You don't need to be prepared. You just need to be willing. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to be willing to take the first step while trembling. But I know what you're thinking. What if I leap and it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I regret it? And those are valid questions. So let me answer them by showing you the alternative. What happens when you choose not to leap? What happens when you decide to stay still, to keep waiting for certainties that never materialize? Kierkegaard gives us that answer too, and it's the harshest truth of all, because refusing to leap doesn't keep you safe. It condemns you to a specific kind of hell, a particular kind of suffering that has a name: despair. Few things are as cruel as a life that's never truly lived, not because opportunities were scarce, not because circumstances were impossible, but because fear always spoke louder than courage, because safety always won over possibility, because waiting always defeated action. Kierkegaard had a name for this state, and he wasn't gentle about it: despair. Not the obvious, dramatic despair with tears and breakdowns, not the kind that gets you hospitalized or puts you in therapy, but a far more dangerous kind: silent despair, sophisticated despair, the despair that hides beneath routines, behind goals that don't matter, inside justifications that sound so logical you don't even recognize them as prisons. This is the despair of people who are still breathing but stopped living years ago. And they don't even know it. Let me show you what this looks like. You're 45 now. You've been at the same company for 17 years. You still talk about that business idea you had when you were 28. Sometimes, late at night, you pull up that old business plan you wrote. You read through it. You feel that familiar ache. Then you close it and go to bed. You tell yourself you're being realistic. You have a mortgage now. Kids in school, responsibilities. You can't take risks anymore. That ship has sailed. But the truth is, that ship never sailed, because you never got on it. You stood on the dock watching it leave, again and again and again. Or you're 38 and you've been with the same partner for 12 years. You haven't had a real conversation with them in 5 years. You sleep in the same bed like roommates. The passion died before your first kid was born. You know you're not happy. They probably know too. But you stay. Because leaving is scary. Because change is hard. Because what if you can't find someone else? What if you're alone? What if this is as good as it gets? So you make peace with mediocrity. You call it maturity. You tell yourself that this is what real life looks like. That everyone feels this way, but they don't. Some people are actually alive, and you're not one of them. When you refuse to choose, you're not remaining neutral. You're not keeping your options open. You're not being wise or patient. You're choosing not to live. You're opting for an existence without depth, without risk, without authenticity, without blood. And with every day you postpone action, you bury yourself a little deeper in the grave of inertia, completely convinced that you're being reasonable. Kierkegaard saw this with terrifying clarity. For him, the greatest danger in human existence wasn't making the wrong choice. It wasn't failure, pain, or even tragedy. The greatest danger was stagnation, the freezing of the soul, the death of possibility through endless postponement. Living trapped in what he called infinite possibility, where everything can theoretically be done but nothing actually gets done, is like living in existential purgatory. Not heaven, not hell, not joy, not even real pain, just continuous numbness punctuated by growing regret. And that regret doesn't wait politely until your deathbed to show up. It's already here, right now. You feel it constantly. You feel it in the irritation that flares up when you see other people trying, moving, risking. When you see your old friend who started that podcast finally quitting their job because the podcast took off. When you see your cousin who moved to Portugal and seems genuinely happy. You feel it in the frustration that hits you every Sunday night when another week is about to begin and nothing in your life has changed. When you realize you've been having the same problems, the same complaints, the same empty promises to yourself for 5 years. You feel it in the shame that surfaces when you're alone, knowing you could be somewhere completely different, mentally, emotionally, physically. But you chose the comfort of standing still. Time doesn't stop for your hesitation, and the time you waste doesn't return as a second chance. It returns as bitterness. You'll start to notice that the dreams you didn't pursue begin to turn into chronic aches, phantom pains for the lives you didn't live. You'll become more cynical, more sarcastic, more cold. You'll mock people who still have hope because deep down you hate the fact that you stopped believing in yourself. You'll rationalize your inaction with cliches. I'm being realistic. That's just how life is. You can't have everything. At least I'm stable. But late at night when the mask comes off, you know the truth. You're not stable. You're stuck. And there's a difference. Stability moves. It adapts. It grows. Stuckness just repeats the same day, over and over, until it becomes your entire life. The non-choice is still a choice, and it has an extraordinarily high cost, death inside life. You become a background character in your own story, someone who merely reacts, survives, repeats. Someone who lives on autopilot, someone who exists but doesn't inhabit their own existence. Kierkegaard called this sickness unto death, the despair of not being able to die, of being trapped in a life that's not really alive. And here's the worst part. The longer you stay in this state, the harder it becomes to escape. Because you start to build your identity around your stagnation. You start to define yourself by your limitations. I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. I'm too old to start over. I've always been cautious. You turn your fear into personality traits, your paralysis into character, your death into a lifestyle. And eventually, you stop even noticing the pain. It just becomes background noise, the constant low-grade misery that you think is normal because you've been living with it for so long. But there is a breaking point, a moment when the pain of remaining still becomes greater than the fear of moving, when boredom stops being uncomfortable and becomes unbearable, when safety stops feeling safe and starts feeling like suffocation, when you realize that there's nothing more dangerous than staying in the same place for too long. Maybe that moment is right now. Maybe that's why you're still watching this video. Maybe that's why you haven't clicked away yet, even though everything I'm saying is making you uncomfortable. Because some part of you, the part that's still alive, the part you've been trying to suffocate, knows it's time. In this final section, we're going to confront this truth with the urgency it deserves. Because if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not some cosmic message written in the stars, but the one screaming inside your chest. The restlessness, the discomfort, the quiet rage of being stuck while life passes by. It's time to do something. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect. Now. Because time is passing, and so are you. If you're still here, if you've watched this far, it's because something inside you already knows. Not suspects, not hopes, knows. Something in you is exhausted, not tired of the world, not tired of other people, tired of yourself, tired of the endless cycle of preparation that leads nowhere, tired of hiding behind caution and calling it wisdom, tired of the voice that keeps whispering, tomorrow, when you know tomorrow will be the same as today, tired of being the person you've become. Let me tell you something you already know but haven't admitted yet. You won't be more ready tomorrow. You'll just be older, more hesitant, more scarred by the battles you never fought, more haunted by the versions of yourself you refuse to become. You won't have more clarity. You'll just have more excuses, better rationalization, more sophisticated reasons to stay exactly where you are. And here's the brutal truth. Even if you try to ignore this restlessness, it won't leave you alone. It will grow. It will wake you at 3 a.m. It will make you feel like a stranger in your own life. It will create a constant anxiety that nothing seems to fix. Even when everything externally looks fine, good job, decent relationships, comfortable life, you'll feel hollow, frustrated, like you're living someone else's script, like you're watching your own life through a window instead of actually living it. Because you weren't built for a lukewarm existence. You know that. Deep down, beneath all the rationalizations and self-deceptions, you know you were meant for something more than this careful, cautious, half-lived life. Kierkegaard said the door to happiness opens inward. Do you understand what that means? It means you can wait forever for the world to change, for conditions to improve, for someone to rescue you, for circumstances to align perfectly. But none of that matters. The movement has to come from inside you. You are the door, and you've been locking yourself in. So right now, at this exact moment, you have two choices in front of you. You can keep waiting for a sign that will never come. You can keep telling yourself you're being smart, strategic, patient. You can keep collecting plans and avoiding action. You can keep pretending that tomorrow you'll be different, braver, more ready. You can keep living this careful death you're calling life. Or you can recognize that this moment, this feeling pulsing in your chest right now, this tension that's been building, is the only sign that matters. This restlessness isn't a problem to solve. It's a message to hear. It's your soul telling you it's time to move. You don't need another video. You don't need another book. You don't need another expert's opinion or another friend's advice or another moment of inspiration. What you need is an act, a decision, a step, a break from everything that's been keeping you frozen. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you might fail. Yes, you might look stupid. Yes, it might hurt. But what you're living right now, this paralysis that's consuming you in silence, this careful death you're calling life, this is already pain. It's just pain without transformation. Sterile suffering that leads nowhere, pain that diminishes you instead of building you. Between the pain of trying and failing and the pain of never having tried at all, only one of them changes you. Only one of them makes you more alive. Only one of them honors the brutal, heavy, sacred gift of being a free human being. So go. Make the call you've been avoiding. End the relationship that's dimming your light. Start the project that scares you. Move to the city that calls you. Quit the job that's killing your soul. Begin the conversation you've been postponing. Take the first step toward the life you actually want instead of the one you've settled for. You will stumble. You will doubt yourself. You will want to turn back. You will face moments where you question everything. But at least you'll be alive. At least you'll be moving. At least you'll be real. And years from now, when you look back, you won't remember the fear. You won't remember the uncertainty. You won't remember the discomfort of those first steps. You'll only remember that you finally stopped waiting, that you finally chose to live. Before you leave, I need you to do something. If these words confronted you, if they hurt you, if they woke something up inside you that you've been trying to keep asleep, write in the comments, "I stopped waiting." This isn't just a comment. It's a commitment. A line in the sand. A pact with the version of yourself that refuses to live in waiting mode anymore. And if this video shook you, if it forced you to face truths you've been avoiding, then subscribe to this channel. Not just to support what I'm building here, but as a reminder to yourself, a reminder to keep waking up, to keep refusing the anesthesia, to keep confronting the hard questions. This is a space for people who have the courage to look inside themselves and act on what they find there. The time is now. The waiting is the dying. There's nothing left to wait for. The only question is, what will you do with this moment?